This is Tar Heel Talk, an in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
According to the National Fire Protection Association, home fires occur more in winter than any other season. And on today's show, we'll tell you how to be fire smart as you stay warm this winter. My guest is Jan Parker, Injury Prevention Specialist with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Jan, welcome back to Tar Heel Talk.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm glad to be here.
And we have been enjoying some very mild weather, but it is going to get cold eventually, and so there are lots of things that people need to keep in mind as they are winterizing their homes.
Exactly. You just said it. Be fire smart and be prepared because it's coming, and unfortunately that's when a lot of families have serious fires that can be devastating, not only for the property damage, but also it can be can take your life. So we want to remind people we've got lots of safety tips for the upcoming winter.
Okay, so let's start. What's the number one safety tip?
The number one safety tip is to make sure that you have working smoke alarms in your home. And we know that a lot of people may have alarms, but they might not be working. They need to test them at least once a month. Replace the alarm every 10 years.
Right.
And they need to be on each level of the home, outside the sleeping area. You need one in each sleeping room and on each level of the house. So again, technology is wonderful. Now we have the 10-year lithium battery. So once you install it and activate, it's good for 10 years, but you still need to test it once a month.
Test it once a month. Now with that, you don't have to have any type of electrical wires hooked up or anything, because I think that's important.
Right.
A lot of our viewers may have older homes who didn't necessarily have smoke alarms
That's
before,
correct.
so you can get that and install it very easily.
It is, and even if you have the hardwire that came when your home was built because the fire code and building code required it, it's still, the best thing is to add, you can also add the battery operated type.
Okay.
And again, you could replace the electric kind because all smoke alarms, the sensors in here, the ionization begins to degrade. So after 10 years, it needs to be replaced.
Regardless,
So,
10 years, replace it.
Yep.
That's important.
It is very important because it can save lives. It can give you enough time to get your family out safely.
Which is what we want in the event of a fire.
Exactly.
What are some other winter safety tips?
Well, we've got holidays coming up, and we want people to think about that because everybody gets busy, and you have more people in your house. We want your guests to know the sound of that smoke alarm. We want people to practice their home escape plan with the family, and let everybody know where the meeting place is out front in the event there is a fire, and to remind children as well as adults in the home that once you're out, stay out. Do not go back inside.
Right, so you have that designated meeting spot.
Exactly.
And once you're out there, you stay and don't try to run in and save someone or a pet.
Yep, that's it. And our number one fire response is for unattended cooking, kitchen fires. So I brought along a little prop tonight just to remind our viewers that this is what happens when you leave your stovetop cooking unattended.
Okay, now tell us what we're looking at there.
This is an aluminum frying pan, and I know it doesn't really resemble very much now, but as you can see, it has melted because that's what happens when you leave your stovetop. We used to have, one year for fire prevention, we had our theme was stand by your pan. So if you're cooking stovetop, you need to stay right there to take care of it.
Absolutely, because a fire could happen
and
within seconds.
Spend more time in the kitchen during the holidays, and that's a favorite place to be, but we have to have some extra safety during the holidays.
And I want to talk more about the cooking safety and holidays in just a minute, but when you talk about preparing your house for the winter, particularly if you have a wood burning fireplace, you need to make sure that that's inspected.
Absolutely. At least once a year. You should have the fireplace, the chimney, the vents, everything needs to be cleaned and inspected by a professional, someone that has the tools and equipment to do that properly. And then if you're using this type of heating, Like, for example, you have a fireplace or a wood stove. You need to be very cautious when you remove the ashes that you have the proper metal container. And once they're outside, you don't stop on the deck or the porch, that you go as far as you can away from the house, a good distance, and that you have it on a non-combustible surface like concrete, not in a grassy area or, you know, leaves or other wood that could be close by.
So when you take the ashes out like that, do you have to just watch them until they completely burn out, or?
Well, you actually need to have, they make a ash container that has a top on it, so you can actually close them up. It resembles very much like a metal garbage can, but smaller, and this has a handle on it so that you can safely take them out. But sometimes people, you know, unfortunately have used a cardboard box or a bag thinking that the ashes were, you know, gone, that they had been there for a day or so. But, you know, these embers can live a long time, for several days even. And you go back and you might not think that you had anything that could be live in there, and, you know.
And you have a fire.
Yeah, exactly. So keeping that in mind. Also, electric heaters, space heaters. That's something that we, you know, if you have a newer model that has the safety features that tip over or automatic shut off, that's good. But if you're going to be using any heat producing appliance, you need to remember you need to plug it directly into the outlet, not an extension, and do not use the extension cord, because it needs to be plugged directly into the wall outlet. And another thing, when you leave home and you go to bed, you need to shut these appliances off. And 3 feet. We call that the kid-free zone, but also the safety zone, a safe distance away from furniture, clothing, you know, maybe the bed, you know, the bedspread, curtains, anything that's combustible should be at least 3 feet away from this space heater.
And with that space heater, why can't you use the extension cord with that and it has to be plugged in? That's a fire hazard?
It can be, because it can overload, and the more heat it produces, it's designed, the cord that is on that appliance is heavy duty enough that it should handle that. But a lot of times people use the lightweight, temporary type extension cords, and they say, well, I just want to move it a little further over, and it's just not adequate. And so we know with all heat producing appliances, it's best and designed to be used plugged directly into the outlet.
Very important and good to know.
It is important.
And people can find out more information and safety tips by going to the National Fire Protection Association's website, nfpa.org. We're going to take a break, Jan. We'll talk more in just a minute.
Thank you, Sonia.
We'll be back with more on fire safety after these messages. Today's show focuses on fire safety during the winter months and the holiday season. And with us again is Jan Parker, Injury Prevention Specialist with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Jan, we are gearing up for holiday celebrations galore. People are going to be preparing those Thanksgiving meals, but there's a lot of caution that comes with cooking as it pertains to fires. So talk a little bit about some of the things we need to be considering.
Okay, well, it is the #1 day of the year that we get the most calls for unattended cooking. And so that tells us a lot, doesn't it? That people are in the kitchen on Thanksgiving Day, which is wonderful. Families are together, and it's a popular spot. So first of all, I want to start out saying, if you have a lot of children coming to your home, try to have activities and somebody that will entertain the children and have something they can do to help with the meal, but not near the stove or not near your busy cooking area. And then remember, again, as I mentioned, to stay right there in the kitchen if you're cooking on the stove top. And that also that you need to keep the kid-free zone, and you know, so that if you've got a lot of electrical appliances going on, that nobody's in that area where you could have a mishap.
Right.
And then
keep the kids away from the crock pot.
Exactly. And you know, if you have to leave, then you know, take something like the wooden spoon or the timer, something with you to help you remember that you need to get back quickly. So
that's a good tip, because you have guests coming in and out and you're trying to entertain and also prepare a meal, you can easily get distracted and forget that you have
Absolutely.
something on the stove or in the oven.
Yep, and we don't want to have anything happen on Thanksgiving
Right.
Day, our big day for a family. And then, you know, I'd like to mention the turkey fires, Sonia.
Absolutely.
I think in the South, we really love it, and there's no, you know, question that it's a wonderful way to prepare a turkey and have a
Right.
tasty, moist turkey. And the National Fire Protection Association, as well as the Underwriters Laboratory, Testing Laboratory, they do not recommend the turkey fryers
Really? Okay.
that use grease, the hot oils, because, you know, they get more than 350 degrees, and when you drop the turkey into it, it can easily overspill. And we've had so many, we work closely with the Burn Center, the J.C. Burn Center in Chapel Hill, and each year they have patients that come in, unfortunately, because there has been a incident related to a turkey fire. And so they just keep reminding us to, you know, get the word out that as wonderful as they are, that we really don't recommend. But if you're going to do it, there's some safety tips that we can share.
Okay, because I know my dad is going to fry that turkey for Thanksgiving. So what tips can you share so that they can at least be a little safer?
Well, first of all, we hope that you would get an area that was non-combustible, away from the deck or porch. Like on a concrete patio or driveway, if that's possible. And to be sure that you don't have any pets and children in the area, that you're going to stay there and watch closely. When you heat the oil, you need to have someone attending it at all times, and to make sure that the turkey is thawed out completely, that it's not frozen or wet, because a lot of times when it drops in, we know the oil and water can, you know, that in itself can be a hazard. So when you make sure the turkey is not too large, and that causes the overspill a lot of times. And then again, just being extremely careful. I have a friend that's husband was injured when he tripped. His foot caught the stool because he was being very attentive, the cooker, but when he got up, he lost his balance and fell sort of into the fryer. It's not just about the fire that's, you know, because you have to be careful around it too, because it is so extremely hot.
Absolutely.
And so that's the biggest thing, that if you're going to do it, that you take all the precautions, and you just can't be safe enough around this hot oil.
Right. So definitely be safe if you insist on frying that turkey, like I know my dad will. Just do it very carefully.
And like I said, I personally know several people that have been injured, and that I would, you know were very cautious. And then it's because, again, it is very, I think sometimes you don't realize how large your turkey is, or, you know, you put the oil to a certain level, and then when you submerge, then it's going to
There also, I'm just thinking of dishes and putting things in the microwave, taking them out.
Yes.
Those burns can happen very easily
Scald
there if you're not
burns is the number
careful.
one burn in the kitchen. And again, a lot of people feel like the microwave is safe, and it may be safer than frying, but at the same time, when you've got several people working together, and if you hit, you know, the wrong time, or you don't have the right dish, or you don't have your
mitts
ready, you know, the right. You need to be ready. You need to be prepared when you go to work in the kitchen, and take extra caution on this wonderful Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. I want you to show our viewers the frying pan again, because I think that is just, that speaks volumes to what fire can do when you leave something unattended.
Well, I think I've told you before that I worked many years for the Raleigh Fire, retired from the Raleigh Fire Department, and this was a prop that I've had for many years, and it came from a fatal fire, an apartment fire, and it was an aluminum frying pan. And again, just to show you, when you leave something unattended, this, you know, aluminum is a softer metal, but this could happen, a stainless steel, even an iron frying pan. You know, if it gets hot enough, this can happen, but this was aluminum, and of course you can see where it would be hard to recognize that as a frying pan. So that this image might help our viewers remember to stay with their cooking in the kitchen on
That's right.
Thanksgiving.
Don't leave
And
anything
all day,
unattended.
all of the time. Yep.
And keep the kids out of the kitchen.
Yeah. And have that working smoke alarm just in case.
Right.
Yep. If something goes wrong, you'll get that early warning and be able to get everybody out safely.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to take another break and we'll talk more in just a minute. Up next, 'tis the season for holiday decorations. What you need to know before you deck the halls when Tar Heel Talk continues. Welcome back to Tar Heel Talk. I'm Sonia Williams. Experts say home fires occur more in winter than any other season. Now, fire safety leaders are focused on keeping consumers safe during the winter months and throughout the holiday season. And with us again is Jan Parker, Injury Prevention Specialist with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Jan, I know people are getting ready. As soon as Thanksgiving is over, maybe some before, they're ready to pull out those Christmas decorations and start putting up the tree and setting up lights. But there are a lot of things that we need to know about the lights and the tree to make it safe.
You're exactly right, Sonia, and they use the Thanksgiving, that nice long weekend, and that's wonderful. But because it's, quite a bit of time between then and Christmas, there are a lot of things we need to remember. And it starts when you're selecting your Christmas tree. If you plan to have a fresh cut Christmas tree, it's right there on the lot. You need to take time to check for freshness and make sure that the needles don't appear to be dry. You need to take a cut. Sometimes they can do it right on the lot, or when you get home you need to cut off about 2 inches on the base of the trunk and put it in water immediately.
Okay.
Don't let it dry out. And every single day you need to water this tree, because they drink a lot of water, and if you want to keep it fresh for the whole month, and some people like to keep it through the New Year's, and if that's the case, it's critical. It's just very important that you don't let your fresh cut tree dry out.
I know that the National Fire Protection Association has a video of a Christmas tree and just showing just how quickly a Christmas tree can burn.
Yes.
Let's take a look at that and talk a little bit more about how that happens.
Yes. Showing you just when it is very dry, in just seconds, it can go up. And this other one, I've had the opportunity to do demonstrations before, and if the tree was watered and fresh, it was very difficult to actually get it to start.
Oh, wow.
Versus the one that's already dry when it comes into the home. So again, most of the fires are started from the electrical, something that's too close, that's heat producing, whether it be the lights, a candle, some heat source nearby usually ignites the tree. But once it starts, as you can see, it's very fast and it's very hot.
It is. That spread very quickly, and the other tree was
as
moist.
you can see, it had been watered and was fresh, and not that it wouldn't be,
Right.
you really do not want to have a fire at all, but you can see it makes a huge difference if the tree had been selected fresh and then watered and cared for every day.
And you talk about the lights and some of the lights being too hot. There is a method to selecting holiday lights that are a safer and more energy efficient option.
Yep. And one of the options, there's a lot to choose from, but one of those is the LED lights that you hear a lot about. And a lot of people purchase these because they're so efficient, they're energy efficient. But another good reason to maybe replace your older strands of lights sets is because they do not get as hot, and so in addition to being energy efficient, they also are much safer. Now you should follow manufacturer's instructions and as to how many strands of lights that you can plug together.
Okay.
And generally speaking, it's about 3. But you want to look on the package and it will tell you. The manufacturer gives those instructions. Make sure that it has the label of a testing laboratory. And this particular one, of course, is UL. Most of the viewers may be familiar with the Underwriters Laboratory that a lot of electrical appliances have. And they will tell you if they are for indoor or outdoor use, and some are for both. But it is very important that you know that if it's approved. You don't want to decorate outside with lights that should only be used indoors. But check each bulb and the connections just to make sure that they're not frayed or damaged or dried. And then again, you know, it's a good idea to consider changing over to the LED just for fire safety reasons.
So if you are, like I am, you're looking through your lights and you see that a few have broken, do you need to throw out that strand altogether, or can you replace the bulb?
It depends on the type of, some are designed to be replaced and others you're going to need to replace the whole set. But look at the sockets and see, you know, if they're damaged or cracked, you definitely would want to replace them so that you don't take a chance of it shorting out. Or if you see any exposed wires, because they do get, you know, we're not always as gentle as we should be, and they don't always get the care that they should have. So,
and if they're frayed in any way, then
it's time to replace
a safety hazard, a fire hazard. When you talk about, you know, displaying your lights, I know a lot of people have those timers, and so they'll come on. They like to drive up and see their lights already on, but you recommend waiting.
We do recommend that when you're away from home and when you go to bed for the evening that you shut off the lights. But, you know, sometimes the timers, if you're there, they're still convenient, and they're, you know, the timer in itself isn't usually a problem. It's just that if you're going to have a lot of extension cords, and we sometimes have to use extension cords, but they're approved and meant to be used temporary. And it's a good idea to be at home when you're using those. And again, if you're outside, be sure that you get the heavy duty outdoor approved extension cords that can handle the number of lights that you're, you know, using, and then it will eliminate having a problem. I know sometimes you've seen where the lights go out or the breaker clicks off. Well, that's for a reason. That's, you know, it's because it was too hot, too much, and that's a good thing. But people need to know that using a heavy-duty extension cord is really important, and one that's approved for outdoors.
I want to make sure we get in the candles here, because I know people like to set out the candles, not just during the holidays, but year-round, just to add a little decoration and holiday scent. So they need to be very careful with those. During
these holiday months, we see a large increase in the number of candle fires, and they are so popular and we all enjoy them. But if you're going to use them, one, you need to have a proper container to hold it, a sturdy container. And I just brought this one in just to show a variety. But always remember to have at least 12 inches around the candles, and make sure you're using flame retardant or flame proof decorations even 12 inches away, and never have candles on or near the Christmas tree.
Excellent point. We're almost out of time. Want to make sure we get in the working carbon monoxide detector, because that's extremely important as well.
With winter heating and other gas appliances, even if we have weather emergencies, people might depend on a generator, and it's so important that if you have any of these appliances in your home that you're protected by a carbon monoxide alarm. So in addition to the smoke alarms,
carbon monoxide detectors as well. Always such great safety information. Jan Parker, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, and I hope everybody has a safe holiday.
Absolutely.
Happy, safe holiday.
You too.
Thank you,
Thanks
Sonia.
so much for watching Tar Heel Talk this week. I'm Sonia Williams. Enjoy the rest of your week.